Hi, welcome to another edition of Java. My name is Nate Nestler, and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Alright, so last time we left off with very basic arrays, but this time we're going to switch it up a little bit more. We're going to create a new project. And the project you're going to want to create is going to be a very basic array list. So it's a lot like the very basic arrays we did before, only this one you can dynamically add to them. So I'm going to set this as my main project, and you'll need to go through the process of creating this, though. You'll need to go say File, New Project, for instance. Come in here, Java Application, right? This doesn't get my cursor to behave. All right, there we go. That's selected. Click Next. Then come in here and call it Very Basic Array List, just like I have it. And then, oh yeah, okay, fine. Very Basic Array List, like that. Now I already have it, so I'm not going to say OK to it, but I cancel it. But you're going to say Finish instead, okay? Alright, and that's going to create it. You're going to need to set that as your project. So again, you can right click on it and say set, let's see here, set as main project, or you can come here to run, and you can say set main project that way too. And then go in there and select very basic array list. Anyhow, one other thing I need to do after that is then pull up the source code, because it doesn't do it automatically for me. So I need to go in here to the source packages and all that stuff, and then come into here and double click the code. Alrighty. Now with that all said and done, you'll need to type in both of these. Import java.util.arraylist, import space java.util.scanner, semicolon. So we'll need both of these lines of code here. Alright. And that's so we can do our array list, and so we can take the input for our scanner, so we can take input from the keyboard when we query the user. Alright, so with that, let's scroll on down. And then in here, we're going to have a function, same one as before. So you can copy and paste a bunch of code from the other one. But it's going to be a static space array list here. Open greater than sign, or open less than sign actually. Float close greater than sign. And we're going to say create array, open close parentheses, and then do a starting curly brace here. And it's just like what we did before, but we're going to do it with array list this time, okay? So I'm going to say array list here like this, and I'm going to say opening less than sign, float closing greater than sign here, and then my array equals new array list, open less than sign, float close greater than sign here, open close parentheses, semicolon. And this is going to let us create a new array list. But you may notice that we don't really have a size other than that it's going to be float. That's because it's just going to get added dynamically. So unlike the arrays where you tell all the elements you're going to have up front, when you create the variable and assign it to RAM, on an array list you don't. You just say that, hey, it's going to take up size of floats, and you're going to start with nothing in there for its size. Well, I mean, you have the size of the array list itself, but you have no elements in your array. So it's an empty array. Literally, it has no elements here for the starting point here. And then we have boolean shopping equals true, scanner input equals new scanner here, system.in, with open close parentheses around it, semicolon. And I just said while shopping, so I kind of give this idea of like a grocery cart or something like that, I guess. So while shopping, this does our while loop again, so it's going to keep doing this while they keep asking to input stuff. Open curly brace here, system.out.print, open parentheses, double quotes here, enter the price of the item, close quotes, close parentheses, semicolon here, and then we're going to say float space price equals input.next float, open close parentheses, semicolon, and my array.add, open parentheses, price, close parentheses, semicolon, and system.out.print, open parentheses, double quotes here, do you want to enter another, close quotes, close parentheses, semicolon. And then this is a good example of print, right? Because it keeps it on the same line until you give a /n. So system.out.print here, open parentheses here, open double quotes, item, question mark, space, close parentheses, open parentheses, true / false, close parentheses, colon, space, double quotes, close parentheses, semicolon. So this is going to say on the screen, do you want to enter another item, true or false? That's all there is to it. And then this one up here is going to say enter the price of the item. So they're going to type in that price. And then we're going to take the input of the boolean. So notice that when they add the price, it gets assigned to this price variable. And then we're literally adding it to our array. And this adds a new element to our array on the fly while the program is running dynamically. So this way we don't have to have how many items ahead of time that we need in order for this to work. Instead, we are dynamically adding them as they're needed every time. And then at the end, our program is finished. We'll have however many elements that we needed for those items for a transaction. And we don't have to count our items up ahead of time or anything like that. We're literally going through the checkout lane, just running up item after item after item, and just getting added onto our array like this. So it's very cool. So then we're going to return our array list, array, which we're going to call my array. And you can see it up here. It's a static array list float here. That's going to be returning that type. Now we have our calculate array, another function here. And it's going to be static, space float, space calculate array. It's going to return a float. And we're going to allow for it to be passed in the open parentheses here, array list, open less than sign, float, close greater than sign, space, calc, and then uppercase array, close parentheses. Open curly brace here. We're going to say float space cost equals 0f semicolon. All right. So it's going to make this a floating point 0. This gets assigned the cost, and we're going to pass in our array list from our calc array. This makes sense because basically we need to pass in the array that was from this function here needs to get passed as the input to as the array for this function here. Why? Because well, we entered in all these values, and then now we need to calculate them all up. So we need to pass out the array coming from this one here and pass it in to this function here. So for this array. All right. So for space open parentheses int space count equals 0 semicolon space count less than calc array dot size open close parentheses semicolon count plus plus like that close parentheses open curly brace and then cost plus equals calc array dot get open parentheses count close parentheses semicolon close curly brace return cost semicolon. All right, and so that's just going to calculate up the total cost here. So start at 0, and it's just going to keep adding up each one of these. Now this is kind of cool. Let me kind of break this down for you here. And so our calc array here, if we do a dot size on it, this is like the length we were doing earlier, but for an array list, you have to use dot size to get the size of the array. So that's what we're doing here. So since calc array is an array list array, we say calc array dot size here, open close parentheses, and it gets how many elements are in our array list. Now over here, this is our calc array here. We're saying dot get open parentheses count close parentheses semicolon, and this is going to get the value that's in our count. So it's going to loop through each element in our array, and it's going to get the value of each one and assign it to our cost and keep adding it up and tabulating it. So that's how that works, and that's what's going on with that. And then we're going to return our cost at the end, which is just going to be a float. It's going to be the total cost, and then total cost is going to get assigned to total as our float. So, like I said, it's real smart. We say calc array, and then inside calc array, we pass in to it create array. Now this makes sense. It's going to literally create the array, ask us to input all the inputs, and then it's going to return that result, which then gets passed into our calculate array by me nesting it like this. It lets me do that. And then when calculate array is done, it's going to return a float, which gets assigned into total. And bada bing, all in one line, very pretty, really clean. Easy to read code, and makes a whole lot of sense. So it's really clean. Although it's the first time seeing code like this, might not make so much sense. It's kind of complicated, but basically we're creating our array, which required no input, and then as it runs, we're inputting all the different items that we're going to purchase, and then when we're done doing that, it's going to return that array list and pass it into our calculate array as the input to our calculator array here. And our calculator is going to run through and calculate all those items up, and then return the total, which gets assigned into total. And then our system.out.println, your total is dollars plus total plus in quotes here, period, close quotes. So let me show you this program running. And it's just going to basically display out how much you owe. So if I run this, let me say enter the price of the item. I don't know. Let's say it's $5, right? Down here, please. $5. Keep forgetting that thing does not get focus. Alright, true. Let's do $10 for another item. Alright, true. And let's do a $3 item. True. Let's do a $2.50. True. Let's do a $5 item. True. Let's do $7.25 for instance. Alright, let's do a false now. I'm done entering items. Okay. And we get back a result is, do you want, after you want to enter another, your total is $32.75. So I could make this a little better. I could come in here and put possibly like a /n in front of it, a /n in front of it like that. And then it'd be on its own line, and that'd be nice. I can do that by running this again here and just type in an item. Let's do true, and then let's do one more. Let's do like 10. Let's do a false. And bam, now you get $15 and it's down here now. So now it's not stuck on the same line up there. And that's kind of nice. So that's what I did with the /n. Let me go on to the next line and drop down one line separate from everything else. So that's kind of cool. But let's step through this code. So I got my breakpoint, and let's get a better explanation of what's going on here. So let's go into debug mode. All right. So in debug mode, we can see what's going on here. And I want to step into my code. All right, so that put me into calculate array, but we get something passed into calculate array. So before calculate array can be done, we have to create the array. So step into that, and it goes, oh boy. So we're going to need to step into there, and it totally worked because it's now asking me for the item. So let's say $5. Okay. Let's say true. Let's say 10. Say false. Well, that wasn't quite what I was wanting here. Tell you what, let me stop. I'm going to put my breakpoint in a little different spot here. I'm going to set up the sequence points of breaks here and here. And then I want a breakpoint inside my main here also. Alright, let's do that. Okay, let's run debug mode. You can set multiple breakpoints like I just did. If I step into this, step into it. And there it goes. It stops there now. Alright. I had to kind of hit it over the head. Alright, so let's step over this one. And we now have my array. My array has 0 size. Literally, it has no elements in it. See that? It's totally empty. But it won't be for long. And now we're going to create a new variable called shopping. It's going to be true. And then we're going to create a scanner input, which can take input. It hasn't taken any input yet. And we're going to go into our shopping because it's true. Alright, and it's going to say enter the price. It's going to get displayed on the screen here. And then it's going to ask us for input here. So our input here, let's say it's 5. And then let's continue on by stepping over this. And we should get something here in our variables. Alrighty. Let's see here. Price here. And value is 5. you get stored in there. So this price now contains the value 5 in it. And that's great because when we go to add this price, now I did have to make price a capital float instead of a lowercase float. You might be going, huh? Normally they just see the value. Well, this is actually a class object, so it has dot value, and which is a float. Here's where the value is actually stored in it. But just use it like a float, and you don't have to worry about it. It's got some extra features, and it's required for our array list. They must use objects, so you cannot use standardized data types. So because of that, you really have no choice in the matter. You have to do it like this with the capitalized float. Alright. Alrighty. Now with that said and done, then I'm going to have it display the system out here for that. So you notice literally says, do you want to enter another item? It got displayed on both parts here. And now it's going to take the input for that. And I'm going to say true. Because I do want to enter another item. Step over while it's still true, because we set shopping to true. And then it's going to display again. Enter the price item here. Float for the input here on price. So we're going to enter in the price value here. Let's make it $10 this time. Enter. And I want to add this price to my variables here on my array. So on my array, literally my array, we're going to add another item here dynamically. So when I say step over, we got another one. And then this one has a value of 10, and this one has a value of 5, because that's what we passed in. Alright, so now back over here on our output, if I step over it, you get to see half of the sentence appears from over here because we did a print statement, but it maintains on the second line, on the same line, when we run the next statement for printing to the screen. So when I step over again, it's going to basically finish typing up on the rest of that sentence. And then we're going to take in the next boolean. So in this case, I'm just going to say false. Down here, I'm going to say false. Enter. And there we go. Okay. And step over. And now that this is false for my shopping, check it out. Variable shopping is now false. It's going to exit this loop. So step on out. And we're going to turn my array, which has now 2 items in it. And it's going to get passed by reference, which is to say a pointer in memory. And it's going to get passed into our calculate array. So calculate array is going to have the exact same array in it with its values. So if I go ahead and say step into it, check it out. Right here we have cost, but our calculate array already exists because we had one called calc array, and it's what got passed in. So that variable is already in existence, and check it out, it has a size of 2. And lo and behold, if I were to drop this down, I'll have a 5 for 0 element and a 10 for my 1 element. And so again, that didn't get recreated in memory, it just got the memory location passed to it. Alright, so let's step over this for our cost. And our cost variable now exists and it's 0. And then we're going to do our count here. And same idea, we're going to say array size here for the size of the array. And we're going to step through it one by one, and we're going to get the value from our array. And remember, it's going to be based on count, so there's going to be each array element. So we're getting the value from each array element here every time we loop. So calc_array.get count here in parentheses, it's going to get and count is 0, then it's going to get the first element in our array for our calc array. So if I step over this, like so, count is 0, and then cost is going to be 5, because it's going to get the value 5 from element 0 here in our calc array, which has the value of 5. 5 plus 0, because cost is 0. So 5 plus 0 is going to be 5. And so step over, and bam, now it's 5 for our cost. Now we're going to increment our count to 1. Is 1 less than 2? Yes, it is, because that's how many elements in an array. So when it does the calc_array.size test condition, this comes back as 2. Count is less than 2, so therefore it works when count gets incremented. So count gets incremented, and it passed that test. All right, so now we're going to be getting element 1 from our calc array, which is a value of 10 in it. And then that's going to get added to our cost. So step over that, and it's going to be 15 now. Awesomeness. All right, and so now our count is going to be the size of 2 when it gets incremented. But our calc array size is 2, so therefore is 2 less than 2? And the answer is no, so it's going to exit out of this loop because we're going to have a false condition here. So say step over, and we now exit out of that for loop. Now we're going to return the float value for cost. Okay, and it's going to be 15, of course. So we'll return 15, and the 15 is going to get assigned to our total over here for 15. So it's going to be passed by value, and it's just going to copy it from the previous location I showed you in memory to this location in memory. They're not going to share the same location. So this is going to get passed by value instead. Okay, step over it, and so we get passed by value here, and it is 15 for that. System.out.println is going to then display the result of our total in cost. So if I look over here at my output, and don't forget total is 15, step over this, I get your total is $15. And that's that. And that's how you can use array lists. So they're pretty cool because you can use them when you need to execute, add stuff onto an array dynamically. You can't do that with a normal array, but you can with an array list. But just as I said before, since we're not creating all these elements as a block up front, these are going to be scattered across RAM. So when you go to read these values back, it will not be as fast as an array. If you're starting to think, well, why would you ever use an array if you have an array list? Well, because it's not as fast to use an array list. Array lists are slower than arrays. Arrays are very quick to execute. But these array lists are going to be scattered throughout. But you have a benefit where it's a lot easier to add elements. If you have an array, you want to add elements, you have to destroy, you have to copy all the data out into a new array with a little bit bigger size, and then destroy the old array. And that takes more computations than it takes to use an array list. So if you have a fixed size array where you know it's not going to change, then don't use array list, use an array. But if you're going to have an array that needs to be added to dynamically as the program is running, then you need to use an array list. No way around it, as far as that goes. But arrays, if you're just pulling the data out of them, when you're reading the data back, they're super fast because, again, it's just in consecutive memory locations. It's just like pow, 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 pow. When you go to read them back, really quick. Instead of like, an array list, it's going to be like find the array element, search through RAM, find the next array element for the computer, search through RAM, find another array element, so on and so forth. And that's what it takes to read it back. So it takes longer. It takes longer for the computer to read back an array list. So if you're writing a performance application and you have a fixed size array, then use an array because array list is going to be too slow. All right. So with that, that is how that works for array lists. Well, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you find this helpful. My name is Nate Nestler, and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Thank you very much.